Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is John Clayton. I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic, and I've been clean since February 21st, 2021. And we're going to carry on today in the out of the Living Clean book, and we are on to connections to others. So let's get started. Some days it seems really easy to identify with others, to feel welcomed and to welcoming in a meeting. At other times, all we hear are the things that set us apart from the group. When we start noticing the differences more than appreciating our similarities, it's usually a red flag indicating discomfort with ourselves when we focus on the personalities of others. We may gossip, bicker, and contribute to disunity. When we focus on our own personality, we quickly become self-centered and self-obsessed. When we focus on living the will of our higher power and carrying the message, our identities grow and flourish. The 10th step offers us simple opportunities to tend to that development, nurturing the growth we want to encourage and pruning back the wayward branches before they grow out of control. When we attend meetings regularly, people get to know us and see us over time. When a fellow member can point out to say, you know, you always get depressed at this time of year, we can take action to address a pattern we could not see ourselves. When someone we don't know that well points out our generosity or loving kindness, we learn that people see goodness in us that perhaps we don't see in ourselves. Our fellows reflect us back to ourselves and show us how we changed. Practicing compassion helps us to stop comparing ourselves to others. We start seeing the deep connections and similarities between us. Our tradition teaches that we are all equal. This doesn't mean we are the same. Our differences are striking and sometimes very entertaining. Many of us have shared that part of what made us feel comfortable in our earliest meetings is that there are so many different kinds of people in a single meeting. Sharing and appearing friendly with one another, this can contrast sharply with that we have experienced before in or out of active addiction. The things that separate us in the outside world don't matter in NA. The disease does not discriminate, and neither should we. We know this is true in principle, but it is sometimes a struggle in practice. Some patterns of prejudice and discrimination are so deeply into woven into the fabric of our lives that we don't even notice them. On the other hand, if we have had a lifetime of experience dealing with oppression or discrimination, we may be so conscious of its signs that we see it even when it doesn't exist. For some of us, hearing our story or identifying is all about finding someone who shares our background or beliefs. Not experiencing that right away can be frustrating or frightening. I can see it works. Some of us have said, but not for someone like me. When other members tell us our need for the companionship is overstated, we don't feel welcome. We feel even more invisible. However, many of us have found that despite our initial discomfort, we do things in a diverse fellowship. We notice at first that we need addicts who share and understand our sexual identity or our heritage. For example, later we find that We need even more to have members around us who really understand us. No matter what we share, we may be surprised by the members whose stories we relate to or with whom we feel comfortable talking. It's uncomfortable when we feel like the only one of our kind in a meeting in a meeting, but that can give way to a larger sense of connection. We learn to accept and love who we are, whether or not we feel like we match. The people around us, we learn to identify with people on other levels, whereas before we might not have even tried. Many of us come to keep an eye on the door, paying special attention to newcomers who might feel like the only, excuse me, my eyes itchy. In many local NA communities, it has taken a few members who stick around through that sense of isolation to create a community that is large and diverse. One or two very young addicts in a meeting make that meeting feel safe for the next young person who walks in, and so on. We learn what once felt like a reason to isolate is actually one more reason why it's important that we're here. We are each uniquely qualified to carry the message to the addict who sees him or herself in us. We never know what will make someone feel a connection with us. When we sense a connection based on our shared disease and shared recovery, the ways in which we differ from one another becomes enriching rather than limiting. As we meet more people, attend conventions and events out of town, and connect with other members in service or online, our circle in NA grows. And if we find people who share our experience, but more surprisingly, we find people who share our feelings and even our sense of connection and disconnection, while we might never have thought to look for them, when we share our experience honestly, we give others the opportunity to relate to us and connect with us in spite of any surface differences. When we do the work of helping people get clean, something changes inside us. We discover the magic, the gift when we see the light come on in someone's eyes. We learn to get out of our self obsession. So many of our solutions are in service. We reap the rewards of our efforts as long as we keep coming back. The addict we reach out to in a moment of need may well be the person who saves our life later. There's a lot to be said for old-fashioned 12-step work. We can get confused and limit our outreach to members we know who have relapsed. We can be fearful of new people we don't know. Perhaps perhaps there is reason to be cautious. We're dangerous when we're using. We alibi out of caring by saying that we are making amends to ourselves. I don't need all that drama in my life. But when we protect ourselves from the newcomer, we don't defend our lives from the drama. We deprive ourselves of the opportunity to witness the miracle. Sometimes what a new person needs most is just not to be alone. Simply allowing someone to be with us, we are we go about our lives can be priceless. We teach one another how to reach out. Just because someone did it for us doesn't mean that we automatically know how to reach out to someone new. Bringing a sponsee along on a 12-step call gives them an opportunity to learn and keeps us from trying to do that alone. We learn to be in the presence of great pain without it in our taking it in or taking it on. We feel deeply and experience our emotions, great extremes. We dive into life face first or hide under the covers, afraid to move. The price of growth for many of us is the awakening of more feelings than we know how to live with. It takes courage and humility to keep from shutting down again. Often, after the fact, we recognize that our negative thinking had cascaded. Perhaps we started with allowing a resentment to fester and found gradually that we were less honest. Withholding the truth gave way to lying, and then sharing got harder, and so forth, until we found ourselves dealing with the consequences of a whole lot of bad behavior. Addiction and recovery are both progressive. We are very rarely standing still. We are almost always either getting better or getting sicker. We define ourselves by our choices. The decision to have a family means leaving behind the independence we knew before. The decision not to have a family means that we must find other ways to feel connected to people, and so on. Tradition 7 tells us that everything has a price, regardless of intent. And we find the profound truth in that as we move forward in our lives and our recovery. Every choice we make, good and bad, means there were options we left behind. We can get we can get lost in infinite webs of if, what if, as we start thinking about our lives. The fourth step warns us about getting caught in the binge of emotional sorrow that can result. We come to see ourselves not as we were, but as we are becoming. NA helps us to live with the consequences and the benefits of our transformation. We all have experience sharing over in our lives with new people, places, and things, stepping into new way of life we don't quite understand. The desire to survive and feel fulfilled is not unique to us as addicts, but in recovery, we begin with a connection to others and work our way to basic safety. And perhaps it has to be the way. To believe that we can trust the love in our lives is challenging. Those really deep needs are the ones we believe won't be met. It begins with the amends process, the understanding that we can forgive and be forgiven, that we can take responsibility for our actions and make better choices. Although our destinations may be different, our journeys are very similar. We travel through many different identities before we find self acceptance. We propel ourselves by using the tools we all share. When we are derailed, we end up in muck. Oh, sorry, we end up in much the same place. When we are moving forward by practicing spiritual principles, we may go to very different places in our lives. But if we relapse, we end up in a common predicament. That is what we share most of most of all. Not where we are going, but where we come from and how we move forward. Together, we rise to the point of freedom. We need one another to get there, and one of the most beautiful things we do in the fellowship is support one another in pursuit of our dreams. Sharing our hopes and our successes is as much as part of carrying our message as sharing our fears and difficulties. We have a message of hope to carry. It's a gift and an obligation. We may not relate exactly to one another's dreams, but we can relate to the hope, energy, and excitement of trying to realize them. We are inspired by one another's journeys. Being present to one another's growth gives us the tools and the inspirations to move forward ourselves. But we also find we are able to stay put, follow through, and live the lives we create. Our recovery is something we can trust and believe in. New beginnings are possible anytime we are ready. Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, that was the end of the next section of the Living Clean book as the journey continues. I appreciate you joining me today. I hope maybe you heard something and wasn't too hard to understand. I'd love if you hit subscribe and subscribe and hit a like if you're liking the videos. Um, yeah, all I can do is just keep striving to get better. So, thank you everybody, and we'll see you again soon.